Rev up your engines! Okay, today we got a Subaru Cross truck. We're going to talk about the vehicle. He's having a problem where sometimes going uphill, it just hesitates like mad. It's a manual transmission. Sometimes he has to go all the way up to first gear to make it up. So there's something going on which we'll check out. But first we'll give an overview. Now Subaru, every year in the United States, sells over 100,000 of these all-wheel drive Subaru Cross trucks. They're a compact SUV, so they're doing quite well sales-wise, and one of the reasons is because of their price. Well, he bought it used, and before it got 60,000 miles on it, the head gasket blew. He had to pay $4,500 to get the engine pulled. They remilled the heads. They did a pretty good job on it. But if I bought a car and the head gasket blew before 60,000 miles, I would be screaming furiously mad. He's retired. He thought this was going to be the last vehicle he bought. And I said, well, if you would have got a RAV4 or a Toyota Matrix, and he said, you know, I looked for those, but they were all too expensive. Let's face the fact, sometimes you get what you pay for now. He's a big follower of me, so he was logical. He didn't get a turbo one. This is non-turbo. Subaru transmissions, the automatics aren't the greatest in the world, but they make really good manual ones. This baby here is a 6-speed manual. So he's not going to have the problem that automatic transmissions have. And in the case of his problem, that when he's accelerating uphill, sometimes he has to go all the way down into first gear to make it up. That is a great thing. Because if it had been an automatic transmission and it was hesitating to go uphill, it could be the transmission, it could be the engine management system. We know it's got to be the engine management system because it doesn't get stuck like an automatic transmission in drag. The only thing that happens to a standard is the clutch wears out. Now, you smart, he didn't get the turbo because these things blow head gaskets as it is. You add a turbocharger, extra pressure, it's going to be even further. He says it's not a race car even with a manual transmission. They can generally go quite some time. And this is the more modern version. So as you can see, it's got the timing chain in it. It's all metal. If you're going to buy a used Subaru, my advice is this. Don't buy one that has a rubber timing belt. The older ones had rubber timing belts. Find out if you look at one. In this case, I got to see the whole front of the engine's all metal, so it's a chain inside. If it was rubber timing belt, there'd be a plastic cover, and that's not. It's all metal, so this has got a chain. But if it has a rubber timing belt, you got to change them at least every 100,000 miles on these because they're interference engines. The belt breaks, pistons hit the valves, goodbye engine. And that not only is an expensive job, but it's not an easy one to do because this is the boxer design with 2 over here, 2 over there. The belts go all over the place. They're extremely hard to set up in the car without pulling the motor. You find a guy who's going to give you a good price and a timing belt, it might not be a good price. He may not put it back together right. Good looking cars. You can see they got a lot of room in them. The previous owner had dogs, so he has a dog cover. And yet, it is a compact SUV, so it's still got a reasonable amount of space, and it's all-wheel drive. So all-wheel drive combined with a manual transmission, you're not going to get stuck in the snow. And really, he's got these covers on the seats, but they're comfortable seats. Got a nice view. Just turn that on to see. Everything is pretty well ergodynamically set up. We'll turn the fan off so we don't have to listen to that. Have your SOS warning system on it. Pull up emergency brake, which I like. It has high and low heated front seats. Driver and passenger. Decent little screen here. We'll check out the backup camera. And the backup camera's got a decent wide angle. There's my little shed. There's the other road, so we can see pretty good. All in all, it's a nicely designed, compact SUV. But like I said, I would be mad as a hornet if I had bought this car used and before it had 60,000 miles, the head gasket blew on it. Now, we don't know what the previous owner did. Maybe they were slobs, didn't change the oil, overheated the engine. We don't know the history of it because he bought it used. That's the gamble. I tell people, if you're going to buy a Subaru, you want to save money, you're probably better off buying a brand new one, driving it 100,000 miles, taking care of it. You might not have any problems at all. But if you do buy a used one, you got to hope that the previous owner really took care of it because these head gaskets are delicate. Take a Toyota. Their head gaskets aren't that delicate, so even if they didn't do much to the car at all, except change the oil once in a while, the Toyota will probably run along, where the Subaru will run along if you maintain it. Now, he maintains it himself meticulously now, but he did buy it used. Here we go. It's detected the vehicle already. We'll do standalone diagnosis. Now, is the VIN number North America, cross track. It's got 73,390 miles. I'll tell scan on because it does a topology scan of everything, so here we go. Let it scan. And while we're looking around, here's held up pretty well, giving us information. Now we got to figure out what the heck it means. It's got 12 trouble codes, so we'll start with the ABS. Probably doesn't have anything to do with the jerking. It's lost communication with the ECM and a PCM. Longitudinal sensor. Okay, that's the problem with ABS systems. They're so complex these days. Any kind of little problem with them, and they can do all kinds of crazy stuff. We'll keep this back in our mind while we look at the rest. So we'll go to the body control module. Again, lost communication with the ECM PCM-A. So it's losing communication. We'll look at the freeze frame. We'll check the telematics. That probably would have nothing to do with it either, but keeps having a code for lost communication with ECM PCM. All these systems, for some reason, it's losing communication. Combination meter, we'll see what that code is. It's UO100, lost communication with the main computer. They're all communication codes. We'll look at one last code, the power steering. Let's see if that's a communication code too. Lost communication. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna erase everything. Yeah, the engine rebuilt, there's no saying if they got codes, they didn't erase codes, we have no idea. Maybe they left a wire loose. Now, as you can see, this one's on the top. Let's check something out here. Sometimes water will intrude. Neither side has any corrosion in it whatsoever. It was acting up with this hesitation even before he had the head gasket work done. So that gives me a good idea. If it happened after the head gasket, you take the engine out, you got to take everything apart on this engine. There are so many things that could be screwed up with wiring, make your head spin, right? But he said he was doing that even before the head gasket work. So sad but true. I don't see any problems in the wiring. It's probably the PCM itself going out. It's either the wiring that's a problem, the PCM, or a particular sensor. Now, I've reset the whole thing. We're going to take it for a spin. Okay, while he's driving, I am watching the data. We're looking for red stuff. We found a hill to go up. Maybe it'll act up for us. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it on record. And of course, it's not acting up for me. Machines fear me. But you can see everything stayed green so far. Okay, here's the hill. We're going up the hill. We're going to see if it's going to act up or not. As the owner said, it's gaining power. It's running normal. It will not act up in front of me. See the machine's being evil. Everything is staying green. I've just got information from the owner. He has never had the check engine light come on. So you know what that tells me? That tells me it's the PCM, the power control module, or the ECM. Same thing, ECM, PCM. They go bad. They don't know they're bad. They're kind of like people. They're bad, but they don't think they're bad. Well, it's not acting up, but while we're floating around here, take some more looks at live data here, and I know everything's going to be black and not red because it's not acting up at all. Hopefully, some red flag will come up when we go to this data. I don't think it's going to. And I'm looking at all the computer data here, the ECM data. But like I said, a lot of these, when they don't trip any trouble codes at all, and he explained that it was going da-da-da-da-da-da. Sometimes he had to go into first gear to get it going. That is a really bad running car. It should always trip some kind of code. And since all the codes that I got that didn't trip the check engine light, but trip codes, were all communication failures, they all lead to the PCM or the ECM, the engine control module, the main computer, being bad. Because if it's bad, it may not flip a code that it's bad itself, because it's bad. Sound like a catch-22. We're gonna let it idle. Of course, there was no bad data. Do another auto scan. Didn't trip any of the communication codes yet. So, wouldn't act up for me. Now, if he's really lucky, just the fact that I unplugged all the wiring harness and all the wires to the computer, I did blow on the top one, and there seemed to be a piece of dirt in there. Who knows? That's enough to mess with electric circuits. These things only are 5-volt reference, so they only got 5 volts of power, and they only have maybe 5, 10 milliamps, thousands of amp power, hardly any power. And a little piece of dirt will make them act up, right? If it doesn't do it again, he'd be really happy that just taking them off, blowing on them, putting them on. But I didn't see any corrosion or anything. Now, the fact that, he said, it never, ever has put the check engine light on, pretty much tells me that if it does it from now on, it's the computer itself. Because you saw all those different things had communication codes, ABS, radio system. The only commonality between all of these systems is the main computer. So if it does it again, it's probably going to need a computer. And that's what I would have thought in the first place, because he said it does seem to act up more when it rains. And computers are often bothered by wet weather. The humidity makes them kind of short out a little bit inside. So he's going to have to get a computer. If it acts up again, that would be the next thing to go towards, because he said it acted up before he had the engine rebuilt. So it wasn't like when they rebuilt the engine, they squashed a wire or something and it acted up. There was no signs of that, and it's not tripping any codes. So they did squash a wire. If they squashed the wire, then power isn't going to go to some sensor. Then it would have a code for that sensor not working, not get any power. And it didn't have any check engine lights on for that. So if he's lucky, blowing on those wires and taking them out, reconnecting them fixes it. But if he isn't lucky, the next step would be, if you can find a good mechanic that knows one of these warehouses that will pre-program them, then all he got to do is put it in the car and set it up so it works with the key. That's the way to go. Because, you know, if you go to the dealer, they're going to sell you everything. And there's a few mechanics out there that they'll reprogram computers now for you, or they'll buy one program to put it in. You can see it's in the front. Clip, the wires come off. Couple of screws. It's easy to change. The only problem is getting the program. And as for reviews, maybe not the best car to get. It blew a head gasket, and now it seems to have computer problems. So let his problems not become yours. Maybe get a Toyota instead, even though you got to pay more. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.